In today's world where multinational corporations rule and tech giants earn trillions, we are here to tell you about the biggest company ever to have existed. Did you know that there once existed a company that still remains bigger than the profits made by today's tech giants? Stay with us to the end as we hop on this journey to tell you the fascinating fact about the Dutch East India Company, which still holds the title of being the biggest and most grossing company in the world. The United East India Company was a chartered company established on the 20th of March of 1602 by the States General of the Netherlands by amalgamating existing companies. It was incorporated as the first joint stock company in the world. It was a strong corporation with quasi-governmental powers that allowed it to start colonies, negotiate treaties, fight battles, and detain and execute prisoners. They could even issue their own currency. They are also renowned for their own involvement in the global slave trade. Facts go on to say about the Dutch East India Company was richer than Apple, Google, and Facebook combined. So exactly how wealthy was the Dutch East India Company? This video may help you to partially explain what was used for all the lovely canals and homes in Amsterdam, Leiden, and Utrecht. The Oost-Indisch Huis, or East India House, which is still standing in the heart of Amsterdam, served as the headquarters for the Verenigde Oost-Indische-Compagnie, also known as VOC, also known as the Dutch East India Company, which was founded in 1602. It was established as a private merchant business. The government awarded it a 2-decade monopoly for trading spices, primarily in the Dutch East Indies, now known as the Republic of Indonesia. And if you think Amazon is frugal with delivery, consider the VOC sent more travelers to Asia, over 1 million, than the entirety of Europe put together. When many ships or individual passengers would never return, a trip from Amsterdam to Batavia, modern-time Jakarta, would take no less than 8 to 10 months. Numerous enormous sailing ships perished in storms, were hijacked, or from contagious diseases. Traveling at the time was extremely risky, but there was a good chance of getting wealthy once there if one had the correct information and mindset. Because of this, many gambled. The Dutch tulip mania, which was a mania for tulip bulbs, peaked during the company's history, and thus stocks were also issued for the first time by an official company. The Dutch tulip mania was also the world's first genuine financial bubble. The history of the tulip mania, which is regarded as the world's first financial bubble, is an amazing tale in and of itself. The Dutch East India Company was valued at 78 million Dutch guilders during the exuberant period, which is equivalent to a staggering $7.9 trillion in contemporary currencies. As a result of the VOC's shares, the company's value increased to a staggering 78 million Dutch guilders, which, while still a respectable amount of money even now, amounts to a staggering $7.9 trillion worth today. Yes, trillion. Really. 7,900 billion, or 79,000 million, that is. Companies like Dutch East India Company were given trade monopolies and hence undertook many perilous expeditions to uncharted and exotic locations. They had the power to amass exotic products, found colonies, build up their armies, and even start wars and conflicts all over the world. Of course, the nature of these risky endeavors made it nearly impossible to obtain any precise indication of intrinsic value. Thus, there needed to be meaningful standards for how much businesses like this should be worth. When the Dutch government awarded it a 21-year monopoly on the trade of spices in Asia, the Dutch East India Company was founded as a charter company. Over 1 million travelers, more than all of Europe, would be sent to Asia by the corporation in the end. According to resources like Alec Plains and The Motley Fool, who was extensively researched the background of very large corporations throughout history, this is the case. The Dutch East India Company's peak worth was so great that it was incomparably inferior to modern economies. So how huge are we talking about in terms of the economy? In reality, the value of Dutch East India Company at its peak was comparable to the combined GDPs of modern Japan and Germany. Mind-blowing, right? Hey, if you're still watching this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. The market capitalizations of 20 of the biggest firms in the world, including Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, ExxonMobil, Berkshire Hathaway, Tencent, and Wells Fargo have also been included in the current chart. Our total for all of them is $7.9 trillion. Meanwhile, the most valuable corporation in the world, Apple, only attains 11% of the peak of the Dutch East India Company on its own. Hey Steve Jobs, scoff at that. In spite of the speculative hype around Dutch East India Company shares, the business was nonetheless prosperous in actual terms. It even had 70,000 workers at one point, which is a remarkable accomplishment for a business that was founded more than 4 centuries ago. The same cannot be said for the other 2 most valuable businesses in history, both of which were the targets of concurrent bubbles that burst in 1720 in Britain and France. In a marketing ploy for the newly established Mississippi Company, Louisiana's richness was inflated by France, causing its value to surge to the equivalent of $6.5 trillion today briefly. A monopoly for trading with South America was granted by the South Sea Firm, a joint stock company in Britain. Of course, doing business with the Dutch East India Company wasn't all fun and games. Despite successfully linking the world and delivering riches to the Netherlands, it also caused unimaginable pain for countless numbers of individuals. The VOC did everything in its power for 2 centuries to safeguard its holdings and maximize profits. This included the use of slaves, colonial tyranny, and outrageous employee mistreatment. Try working as a deckhand on a round-trip VOC for an entire year and half, or, far worse, as an enslaved person in the dank, dark interior of a ship. Up to 50,000 Africans are believed to have been moved or rather dispersed by the VOC to work as enslaved people or be traded among its colonies. It's an incredible amount, but what's worse is that many nations subjected many more people to slavery per nation than the Dutch and VOC ever did, thus permanently and involuntarily altering the demography across all of the world. The accomplishments of multinational commercial firms like the VOC have permanently marred Europe's history of colonialism. The business of VOC prospered and achieved great profitability, and it was given permission by the Dutch government to erect forts and create bases all throughout Southeast Asia. The firm began to outperform its primary rival after years of war with the Portuguese Navy, and in 1619, it invaded Jakarta to set up its sprawling headquarters, Batavia. When we look at the history of the VOC, we can discover some intriguing information, but it would be negligent of us to leave out the drawbacks that it brought. Every Dutch person owes the world at least that much, especially in the light of the crucial role that colonial descendants played in the development of modern Holland. In 1975, the Dutch East India Company was dissolved. The early modern European trading businesses that were active in Asia were all overshadowed by and paled in comparison to it. VOC documents have been preserved on around 25 million pages and are housed in archives at Jakarta, Colombo, Chennai, Cape Town, and The Hague. The VOC archives contain information pertinent to the history of hundreds of former local governmental and trading regions throughout Asia and Africa, making it most comprehensive and encyclopedic source on early modern history of anywhere. The British and Dutch engaged in ongoing conflicts, resulting in 2 devastating wars. Between 1780 to 1784, during the second conflict, British forces nearly destroyed the Dutch firm by destroying half of its fleet. The Dutch East India Company was fully dissolved by 1799 since the numbers were never regained. Hence came the end of the biggest trading empire, the Dutch East India Company. We hoped you liked this fascinating story behind how the trading monopoly emerged to become the highest grossing and gaining trading company in the world. Didn't it surprise you to think how a company incorporated 4 centuries ago still holds the title of being the biggest ever? For more such exciting content, like, share, and subscribe to our channel, and also refer to other videos. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you in the next video.